Hello and welcome to the International Mastermind Show, Think and Grow Rich Live. I am Galen Bingham, the leadership strategist, and I am so excited to be back with you guys today as we continue to walk through this incredible book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, written in 1937. But boy, I tell you, it feels like someone wrote this 3 or 4 weeks ago because it is so relevant. It continues to be relevant to what we've got going on in today's time. Today, we are going to be talking about decision, and decision is the antidote to procrastination. So whenever you find yourself procrastinating about something, about a decision you need to make or an action you need to take or some sort of move, then it's basically you have not made a decision, because once you've made a decision, then everything gets really, really simple. Everything gets really, really clear as to what you need to do next. But it starts with making a decision. With that, I want to bring in my co-host, my mentor in this space, none other than the wealth builder, Miss Ann McNeil. Where in the world is Ann McNeil? Where are you today?
Oh, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, Galen. Where in the world is Ann McNeil? I am today bringing greetings to all of you from New York City. And I said last night, the city that never sleeps. And I'm here for a conference for transportation officials, Conference of Minority Transportation Officials, called COMTO. And I'm very excited today to have our guest here, Ms. Kathleen Fischer, but also talking about I would like to suggest one of my favorite decisions. My favorite decisions, right? That's exactly the decision that we're discussing. But one of my favorite principles, because as we were talking before the podcast started, it is for me connected to that desire. But is every single decision connected to that desire, for me over the long period of time, helps me to really remove the issues surrounding procrastination, which I speak for anybody else, Galen, but I know for me, procrastination has been a real problem for a very long time until I began to read this book, but also until I began to allow the book to read me. And so I'm excited to delve into this conversation with our special guest today, Galen.
Yeah, this is going to be a great conversation, because at the heart of everything, we can have all the plans, we can have all the organized plans, we can have faith, but until we make a decision that today's the day that we've stopped analyzing, until we make that decision, then nothing's ever really going to happen. So this is at the core of any venture, any movement, anything that you want to accomplish. It really comes down to making a decision. So before we bring our guest in, I want to tell you a little bit about who our guest is. This is going to be an incredible conversation. Kathleen Fischer is the founder of Christ Empowered Impact and the host of the Christ Empowered Entrepreneur podcast. Through transformational keynotes and workshops and business programs, she equips Christian entrepreneurs, leaders, and teams to walk in the power of Christ to fulfill God's will for their business. So very often I meet people who are compartmentalized Christians, right? And they're Christians on Sunday, maybe on Wednesday, and maybe at night before they go to bed. But how do you breathe that into the totality of what you do? So I can't wait to bring Kathleen in. As a matter of fact, Kathleen, come on in. We'd love to have you go ahead and join the conversation.
Well, hello, Galen and Anne. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for this conversation because decision, like you, Anne, is probably one of my favorite topics because it's an all-day thing.
It's an all day, everyday thing. Tell us just a little bit about your background, because you've been on a bit of a journey. You've done a number of different things before becoming an entrepreneur and having your own podcast and your own movement here. Tell us a little bit about the journey that led up to the Kathleen that we're seeing now.
Wow. Well, yeah, my degree is in computer science, which very few people believe at first. They think it's psychology or something, but it's computer science. I'm very techie and organized. And then I really I started a business in my 20s, helping small businesses buy computers and automate. At that time, PCs didn't exist. We were just starting. So I learned really from God, if you will, that I was gifted in taking technical things and making them practical. And one day I heard in my spirit that I would one day do this in the spiritual realm. And I immediately understood it meant that I was going to apply faith to the moment to moment, day to day things we have to do. Well, fast forward a number of years, I left work, if you will, and raised my family. And then I came back to it actually in my 50s. And when I began, I will share that a voice, if you will, from my stepfather that I was raised with, who was very successful. And he had always said to me, don't ever speak publicly, because if you do, you're going to get chewed up and spit out.
Huh.
Yep. And he was so successful in the world that I knew it was wrong, but I also took it in as truth. And I think this happens to us and we take it into our identity. And as God called me into coaching and then publicly, right? You have to go online and all these things. I'm going to be honest with you folks. I actually shut down my business 15 years ago. I shut it down because I couldn't do it. I was paralyzed, completely paralyzed. But he called me back after a journey of actually rescuing my parents from a hard story. And here I am now, about 5 years ago. He literally, I said to him, Father, everything needs to come from you and be done through you and unto you. So what problem? A business has to solve a problem. What problem do you want to solve? And it just clear as day. I couldn't believe it. I heard so fast. He said, my daughters whom I've called into business are struggling because they're trying to fulfill the business through themselves instead of through the power of my son. And I said, well, how do we actually do that? I check, but how do we do that? And he had me in a season of prayer. And then I really felt the Christ show up in maybe a week later. And he said, it really comes down to the first commandment. And this is going to tie into what we're talking about today, which is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And what he was saying was align yourself, your mind, your heart, your soul. And this has become my journey now of helping particularly women, but entrepreneurs, leaders, and teams to align their mind, their heart, their soul, and their actions with God, because it's his call that they're trying to fulfill and they need his power. So nothing better than a empowered mind by God and a heart and soul. So that, I know it's a bit of a long story, real quick.
No, no, really, really good. And again, can't wait to get further into this conversation about decision, because that really is the crux of almost everything. Before we get into that, I want to acknowledge the folks that are checking us out on YouTube. I see Meta Wilson is here. Kathleen Hill is here. Looks like your $1 million mastermind buddy, Velin Whitfield, is joining us on YouTube as well. Latanya is here, and Diane Kingflowers is here. You guys watching us on YouTube, be sure that you hit that thumbs up icon underneath the video so that we can make sure that the YouTube algorithm checks us out and promotes us as we move forward. So be sure that we do that. And then I want to go back to Ann and talk a little bit about this video so that we can get into the rest of this conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely, Galen. For many of us, when we started this journey of Think and Grow Rich and the book and reading the book, we started learning about the story that was told between Andrew Carnegie interviewing Napoleon Hill to be willing. That was the question. And I want to ask each of you, as you listen to this video, ask yourself the question: if you were Napoleon Hill and Andrew Carnegie asked you to take 20 years to research the philosophy of success, and then he said, I will not give you a dime. I will give you letters of introduction, but that's it. What would you say? Would you say yes or would you say no? That's the question I like to ask each of us as we listen to this video. Because Napoleon Hill said yes as he's standing in front of Andrew Carnegie with his hands in his pocket, with no coins, not even enough money to get home. And he says yes. But he makes a decision to say yes quickly. That's what we're going to talk about today. Do you make decisions quickly or do you procrastinate? And I believe that the 2 days prior to the question, Andrew Carnegie developed such a desire and created such a vision in the mind of Napoleon Hill that his answer was yes. Now, what we're going to watch now is the result of those 20 years of research. 25,000 people analyzed for this particular principle to determine the success or failure principle in many individuals during that day was this principle of decision. So we're going to start with the desire and we'll go all the way through the 13 principles, but I'd like to challenge each of you to think about your own answer to the question, because every day you're asked that question and you're required to make a decision, and Kathleen's going to talk about this, not the big decisions, but the moment by moment decisions that will determine the rest of your life. So with that being said, listen up to this video.
Number 1 is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step 2 is faith, having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step 3 is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the mastermind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the Wild Wild West days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us, use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical, but what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
All right, all right. I always enjoy getting a summary of all those principles. But one of the things I want to bring Kathleen back in for, and this comes directly from the beginning of the chapter. I love when it says procrastination is the opposite of decision. And it is the common enemy of practically every person that every person must conquer. But just this idea that procrastination is the opposite of decision. If you're procrastinating, that means you have not you have not made a decision. What's your reaction to that, Kathleen?
Well, it truly is true. And I almost think of it sometimes in the opposite order. What I notice, if you will, is that while I think I've made a decision, I'm finding myself procrastinating. So it's this duality, if you will. And what I've learned is that when I believe I've made a decision, I now pay attention to, am I procrastinating? Which most often I find is because I'm thinking negatively or fearfully about something. And what I'll notice is we all have our patterns, right, of procrastination, and they are my flags. So wait a minute, why are you organizing things? You are avoiding the decision because you're afraid. And that's when I go back and stop, and I do something I call awareness and realignment, and then commit to the action. I become aware of what am I thinking and believing right now that is causing me to procrastinate. And then I get back to the decision by realignment. So that's how I see the two. They kind of like play off each other, if you will. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
important. Without that decision having been made in the beginning, you have nothing to go back to.
Mm, really, really important. So Anna, I want to get your reaction to that as well, because one of the things that's coming to me as I'm listening to Kathleen is typically when you feel like you've made a big decision, but you find yourself procrastinating. I'm wondering if that's usually some sort of fear that's raising its head, and Napoleon Hill talks about the six ghosts of fear. What's your idea, Anne, about the connection between procrastination and fear?
Well, I'd like to use an analogy about how fear shows up. And my analogy, Galen and Kathleen and everybody that's listening, is the fact that it really starts with an indecision.
Mhm.
Because when you don't make the decision, that is in fact a decision called indecision. And that indecision marries, and you've heard it before, Gayla, it marries procrastination, and they birth a child called fear. And to me, that's the journey. And I think back to when I was in corporate and I wanted to leave my corporate job to pursue entrepreneurship. And so the longer I was undecided about the decision to leave, I procrastinated. And the more I procrastinated, the stronger the fear gripped me about what would happen if. But going to Kathleen's point, but for God, and living in that book and this book, I began to read and reread the stories from both books and really began to see what happened to people who, by faith, made a decision. You see, this is the thing about making a decision. You make the decision and you make it right. Can I say that again?
Please.
I remember. Keep
You
going.
make the decision and you make the decision right. You see, there's no right or wrong decision, because what happens is that if you find that you decide to do something that did not work, don't quit. Just keep moving forward with your accountability buddies and partners and mastermind group, and vet the decision that you've made and make some adjustments. What happens oftentimes is that we make a decision, oh, it's not going to work, and we retreat back to doing whatever we were doing that wasn't working in the first place. And so that is what I have began to do and use. But I would tell you this, Galen, Kathleen, and everybody, when I am very clear about my desire, and that desire is a burning desire, let me go back to my job. When I was on that job, my desire prior to December 31st, 1979, and the $1,000, but my desire was to take care of my mom. And I knew I could not do that financially in a situation that would not financially support our family and my mom, if you will. When the day came for me to support her health-wise, or whatever that meant. And so that was my burning desire, if you will. And so the 6 steps then became a process of how am I going to achieve the desire. So whenever I'm faced with a decision, I go back to the burning desire and I test the decision against the desire.
Mm.
And I'm getting better and better and better about making those decisions quicker and quicker and quicker, because I don't need to procrastinate. So those would be my would be my words. Thank you.
Yeah, one of the things, Kathleen, I'd love to get your take on, because Ann mentioned this a little bit, and I love the way the text talks about it. It says, close friends and relatives, while not meaning to do so, often handicap one through their opinions and sometimes through ridicule, which was meant to be harmonious. So our relatives and our close friends, they love us. Their desire is to keep us safe, and therefore they're going to toss up all kinds of caution. And so one of the things that Ann just mentioned is to make sure that you've got a close-knit mastermind group, or that you keep counsel with yourself so that you can stay focused on the mission rather than listening to all of the things trying to keep you safe. How has that journey been for you? Because you had a good paying job and then you became an entrepreneur. I'm sure your close friends and relatives would have guided you around that, because it's not as secure. How do you maintain and reinforce your decision by either talking with a mastermind group or keeping counsel with yourself?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it goes back to desire, like Anne said. And my desire literally on this earth is to fulfill God's will for my life. It is my burning, constant, everyday desire. So that is my driving force of my life. And so I constantly go back to what he has shown me that he is calling me into to do. And your comment about, not sharing, I loved what Napoleon Hill said about, I don't have it right in front of me, but it's about staying silent. Be wise. I am surrounded by people that don't necessarily believe in what I do. Surrounded by them, the majority. And so, I won't say the majority, but if you will, many. And I have learned in my world to stay silent and to talk to the Lord, and then make sure that those whom I do share my ideas with are those people that are aligned with my call. They understand it, they believe in it, and they will support me in it. They are the only ones that I share an inner thought with. And they're the ones that help me stay, wait a minute, remember the call. and they'll tell me, they often talk about a top, and the top starts to get out of balance. They'll say, go back to the call, go back to the desire. What are you doing? So those two things, that desire is, as I've said, is number one, drives me, and then staying silent a lot so that I'm talking to the Lord a lot in environments, and I'm saying, whatever you say is what's going to happen here.
Gotcha, gotcha. And I want to come back to you because this is reminding me of something I heard from your good friend, Mr. Les Brown. Les Brown famously said, "Don't be concerned when other folks don't see your vision. God gave the vision to you, not to them." So if you're over there checking with other folks to see what was this thing that God showed me, they're not going to see it. They're
They
not
are
going to
not.
see it. So, and what's your reaction? Because I know for you, you've done so many different things. There had to be times when folks were trying to encourage you to play it safe, to not open those businesses. And there are no other women general contractors in Florida. Come on, go back to your accounting gig, and let's get that. Let's see if you can get that corporate job back. How have you guided around this idea of staying true to your decision when all these well-meaning folks around you are trying to drift you back towards safety?
Well, Galen, I go back to the burning desire. I tried many other things. You see, this is why we have to all be very clear about whatever it is we're desiring, because we can veer off into other things as people have better ideas for us, right? And so my burning desire is to take care of my mom. That's the burning desire. How am I going to do that without money? So how will I make additional money? Because I have a good corporate job. So of course, network marketing ideas. I tried a lot of different other ideas, following other people's vision about what was best for me.
Hmm.
Can I say that again? If we stay true to the main thing is the main thing. And sometimes we get confused thinking that the main thing is the strategy or the journey. It's not. The main thing is the burning desire to take care of my mom. So I tried network marketing because a friend said, hey, I know how you can make some money. All right. I tried selling different things because somebody else said, hey, I know how you can make some money. And it wasn't until, again, reading this book, because all of those things happened before the book. And that's why we continuously come back to this book. And I'm going to ask Kathleen the next question after I finish answering your question, Galen. But for me, once I began to live in these principles, all of the naysayers and other people, unless they were in my industry, let's see that. See, we have to vet the information. And Kathleen's going to talk about this. We have to, test spirit to spirit, and everybody's not like spirit. That's why when we talk about the mastermind group and how do you determine who to put in your mastermind group, I share with people, here we go back to the decision. Make a decision to only ask one person to be in a mastermind group with you. That's a decision. And that decision and that person must be like-minded and like-spirited. The two of you together must make a decision to agree on the third person, and so on, as you continue to increase that group. So coming back to me, thankfully, I had created a mastermind group of 10 individuals. So Galen, it was easier then over time for me to, not listen to the naysayers, but listen to those people who were surrounding me, who had my best intentions, and vice versa, I had theirs, as we mastermind my decisions. So now with that being said, I want to come back to Kathleen. I always like Kathleen to ask everyone this question. And that is, what was your first introduction to this book?
That's a great question. It's so interesting because at first, actually it was through the Black NSA where I'm a member. It was last.
Excuse me, hold on a second.
Oh, sure.
For those people who are listening to the podcast and you're not on video, are you Black, Kathleen?
No, I am not Black. I'm quite white, which I had to ask, can I come in?
Yes.
I did ask that question.
Not the big elephant in the room for those of you that's listening.
Yes.
That's the question that was asked, and that tees up the fact that I met Galen as a part of the National Speakers Association. And inside of the National Speakers Association, I went to the board. I'm a member of our national board, and I asked the board if we could take the Black NSA, which was really just a committee, if you would, and turn it into the first virtual chapter of the National Speakers Association. And I asked if we could become a global chapter, and they all agreed unanimously. Now, inside of that Black National Speakers Association chapter, we have what we call, which again, yes, God bless me to have an idea, to put this International Mastermind Association process inside of Black NSA and model what we do for creating mastermind groups. And so we created what's called the Black NSA $1 Million Mastermind Group, which I suggested Galen to join, and he did. And thankfully, because he did, he's here. But also Kathleen now is going to share her first introduction to the book. And I have to give backstory, because people who are listening that don't look like me, but they look like you, and they're saying, but why was she, how did they let, it's open to everybody. So let's start with that. Now, Kathleen, you can go ahead and proceed with your first introduction to this book. Thank you.
Yes, thankfully, one of my inner people is Lethea Owens, who is currently the president of the Black NSA, and she recommended that I come into the community. And I had this discussion about my color is different. And she said, it's about like-mindedness and heartness and spirit of helping one another to succeed, to move forward in our calls to speak. I said, I'm in. Can I come in? And I have found it to be very true. So I just had to say that, so you know how we are in that community. That said, my first introduction to the book was through Lethea. And so I was reading the book a couple of times over, and I'll confess, my first thought was, I don't think so. I think it's too monetarily focused in terms of me as my primary desire being God's will, and the money comes out of his provision. And so I put it down a few times, honestly. And then Lethea continued to encourage me. And in the spring, I decided, I felt the nudge from the Lord. I did to enter the program and to really sit still with it. And so when I began to sit still then with the Lord, with the book, with my highlighter, I was listening and reading at the same time. All of a sudden, I saw underneath everything the truth of God's use of our mind to align with him, to fulfill the will that he puts into the desire of our hearts, so that we become aligned with him, mind, heart, soul, as we will, but we'll say mind here, to accomplish the work he's calling us to do. And it was like a light went on for me. And I said, oh, I get it. I see it. It's neuroscience, which is something I'm passionate about. And once I saw that, it just began to open up and make more sense to me. And and here we are.
Always great to hear the backstory of how we each find this book. Very similarly, I read this book, I think, for the first time maybe 25 years ago, but I think I read it for the sake of saying that I read it, right? It's one of those books that people say, if you're going to consider yourself educated, you got to read this book. So I read it. I had a couple of things I could kick back to someone if they questioned me on it, right? But I didn't really understand the principles until going through the $1 Million Mastermind with Ann McNeil and with others, because the principles here are so consistent with scripture, consistent with neuroscience, consistent with emotional intelligence. All the things that I personally have paid thousands of dollars to understand at a deeper level were all embedded in this book. So just wanted to, again, just acknowledge folks who are, again, checking us out on YouTube. We got LaTanya is here with us in YouTube. Dorothea Dennis has joined us. And then we got Angela Sturgis joining us here in studio. Definitely get your questions ready. We're talking with Kathleen Fischer here, and we're talking about the importance of decision, not just the big decisions that you have to make, but the daily decisions that you have to make in order to stay the course. Kathleen, talk a little bit as we're getting questions coming in. Talk a little bit about what you do to maintain the daily focus, the hourly focus, because one of the things that the text also talks about is that absence of decision, the world will find ways to navigate you and drift you to what they want you to have and what they want you to do. And usually it's so that someone else can make money or someone else's decision can be manifest. What are some things that you do to maintain your daily focus on your decision?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. Really, I believe that in order to win, if you will, the work, we have to be on the offense. And I believe that we have to be on the offense mentally and in our hearts, what we're believing in our souls, how we see ourselves. And so I believe that is a 24/7 deal. And so one of the things I teach my clients and I do every morning when I wake up is before I allow myself to pause, I used to wake up feeling like I had cement bags on my chest. I was so anxious about the day. I was literally paralyzed before I even got out of bed. That's my backstory. That wasn't going to work in business, right? So I began to realize, and I believe by divine revelation, to see a different way to do this, which was on the offense. The moment I realized I am consciously awake, I immediately turn to the Lord and I say, thank you that you have made me one with you. Thank you that you exist within me. Thank you that you're ahead of me in this day. Thank you that you've called me to this work. Thank you that the work will be done through you, in me and through me. And I literally have this habit of, as my feet are about to hit the floor, I say, thank you, Lord, for the glory that I am going to witness, that your glory that I'm going to witness in this day. And then I'll begin thinking about my day, and people joke with me, but I say, no, then I continue. Now I'm starting to think about my day, right? And going in, you're getting washed up. I say, I think of the day. I say, thank you that you got that one covered, even down to my clothing. Thank you, Lord, you got the outfit figured out, because, I could stand at the closet for a while. And every moment, as I look at everything I do, before I enter my day, I spend time worshiping and realigning myself. And then as I enter my day, my task, before I start the task, I say, thank you, Lord, that you're going to help me in this task. And then in the middle of the task, when tech goes down, when a client sends me an email I was really not hoping to get, I'll even turn and say, you saw that, right? You knew that was coming. I can sense him saying, yeah, I knew that was coming. I was like, great, you have an answer for it. And so I am dialoguing, and all of this is neuroscience with the Lord. I'm communing with the greatest power of the universe. And it has totally transformed the way that I do everything. And through the watches of the night, at the end of the day, I reflect back with him what was good, because it says, dwell upon all that was good, right? That means to pitch your tent on top of what is good. That's an all-day decision to not look at the negative that's happening or whatever it is, and to focus on the good all night, right? In the middle of the night, you wake up, you start thinking about, oh no, your flesh gets involved. And I say, no, thank you. So it's a proactive 24/7 thing for me that I teach to my clients. And that's how I succeed what I'm doing.
And what about you? I know you got some thoughts here.
Well, I'm not sure if you saw my hand, because I had a question too. Yes, let me go to my question though, Galen. And Kathleen, thank you so very much for sharing. I really would like to have you also share, as soon as I come to Galen's question, if you have had or are having a major decision that you can share with our audience that has been really, really, really tough. And as you went down that road, it looked like it was not a good decision. Did you get off the road and quit, or did you continue down that road and find that it was the right road to travel? Now, Galen just went off. Galen, I was going to come back to your question. Now, that's my question to you, Kathleen. So just hold it 1 second. Now, Galen, you had a question for me, please.
No, just the question was, what were your comments?
my comments? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
For Kathleen?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Galen. I thought you were asking me a question. I'm sorry. So Kathleen, that's my question for you. Can you share any decision that you've had to make, or are making, and if you got off the road and procrastinated, if you will, procrastinated, or did you continue going down that road with that decision to find that it worked out or not? Could you share an example?
Yeah, actually, the beginning of my business, the more recent, I want to say 2020 version of the business, if you will, after he called me back, when I really heard from the Lord this idea that his daughters were struggling, it really mattered to him that they learned to build the business through the power of Christ. I was all in. I understood it. I saw it. I saw how my skills were related, and I moved into it. But it did not take off. And I thought it would. Meaning, I don't mean it didn't take off at all. When people came on board, I ran some challenges, and everybody that came into my program said, oh my gosh, I totally understand this. But the greater vision wasn't taking off in the level that I thought it would. And I had to make a decision and continue making the decision to stay the course, to follow everything I felt the Lord calling me to do, to create YouTube videos, to create my podcast, to continuously put out the vision that he gave me. And so many times I would be discouraged in that, because I think he picked me, honestly, because I'm somebody that if I'm going to do something, I want to see a result. And I'd like to see it very quickly. Thank you very much. It's not like Abraham. And what he said to me was, meditate on the lives of Abraham, Joseph, and Moses, etc. And one time he even said to me, how much investment does a surgeon make before he actually goes into the operating room on his own? And so all through this journey of stepping out in the business and sharing the vision, and people thinking, yeah, I'm good, I'm fine. And I'm looking at them thinking, no, you're not fine. I can see that you're not fine, but they're not catching the vision. It was so hard for me. My husband's not a believer, so he's not necessarily by nature a big fan of what I do. So I had to constantly, revisit that. So what I had to do was constantly go back to my desire and the decision that I had made, a decision like Abraham did, to leave where I was and to go on the journey. And so I saw it as a journey. That is my assignment. I am going to take the journey no matter how long this takes. And that is what I have continually done. And I am still there. In that now he has called me to work more with, not just more, but entrepreneurial leaders and teams, was another large decision. Okay, move into that space as well. And so it is a constant decision to keep going, because I know with every fiber of my being that what he called me to do, I heard, I know it, I know the truth of it, and I will not take another tangent off of it. So I haven't diverted. I have stayed the course. But it is by that constant going back to the desire.
Perfect. Thank you.
Got it. We're starting to get questions from YouTube. Victoria Long Coleman wants to know, what decisions are you currently postponing that if you made it today could shift the direction of your life in a huge way?
What decision am I currently postponing that if you made it today could shift your direction in a huge way? I'm not sure, Victoria, at the moment. I am making every decision that comes to me. I'm a very much an action person. So when a decision comes, an opportunity comes, I act. I'm very quick to act, to shift, even to grow the business into a new direction, to move out, to meeting new people that I'm meeting, to share the skills that I teach. So what decision? I'd have to think about it, to be honest, Victoria. I'd have to sit with that question, if I may.
Yeah, so I'll tell you for me, but something back to what Kathleen said earlier, it's not the big decisions. It's always the small decisions. You know, do I get up at the first time the alarm clock goes off, or do I roll over for another 5 minutes, right? You know, should I eat the salad for lunch, or there's only two more slices of pizza left. I mean, really, come on now, just two more slices. It's the small decisions that usually have big impact that I really try to focus on getting right. What about you, Ms. Ann? Are there any decisions that you're postponing, that you're putting off, that's taking up a lot of brain space because you haven't made it fully?
Not really. I want to go back to something that we're all talking about in terms of the decisions. I look at it like this. It's called compound interest.
Mm,
We think about compound interest in terms of money, invest a small amount over a long period of time. But the decision, and Galen hit the nail on the head about the piece of pizza, but he really stepped on my foot when he talked about, I don't do an alarm, but I drink water the night before, and that determines what time I need to get up. But will I roll over and cross my legs, or will I get up? It's those small decisions, I believe, for me, I associate them with compound interest. And it's the small little decisions that I make or don't make that are compounding over a long period of time. And so then what I do, I play a game with myself. And Kathleen can appreciate this. I'll often find scripture that will put a pin in me to get me moving. And so the one that I use for that, and Galen, you might want to adopt this one. I think it's Proverbs 6:10 or 10:6, one of those. And it says, a little sleep, a little slumber,
mm,
a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will overtake you like an armed man. And so every time I decide to cross my legs and let me just get 5 more minutes. I don't know where. I do know, let's be honest, right? Right? Can I be honest? The spirit convicts me,
mhm.
and the compound interest of crossing that leg just one more time. And I think I'm going to take 5 minutes, and it's an hour later. Come on,
Mhm. Amen. Seriously.
can I get an amen in the chat?
That second sleep is always the deepest. The
Oh
second
gosh,
But
yeah.
sleep.
it's also the longest too.
And
Okay.
it's also the most detrimental sleep. It's not in your favor.
And then when I wake the second time, I am late.
Yeah.
Come on, somebody. And this is the power of the insidiousness of procrastination.
Mhm.
And going back to how Kathleen started, and I know we're getting ready to wrap up because where did the time
I
go?
know, I know.
But when you think about the little small decisions, I like to exercise. And yesterday we did our Friday call. That, for those of you that don't know, every Friday we do a Think and Grow Rich Friday. Yes, accountability mastermind call. But I had a train to catch. Bright line, it was early. So now, do I make the decision to walk before I take the train, which now I got to back everything up, not by an hour, but by 2 hours this day? And because we're in this principle, and I had to report yesterday, I had to get up extra early. So yes, Laverne, that's why I was asleep very early last night. But my point is going back to the question of this decision. We want to just make sure, and we'll come back to you, Kathleen. We want to just make sure that for each and every one of us, it's not the big decision. It's the little decision that is compounded over a long period of time. Like writing this book, and we're going to get to this. Took me 20 years to write this because I kept procrastinating. That's why, Galen, I had to put a process in place. This is called You Must Have a Dream to Have a Dream Come True. And overcoming procrastination is one of those. So back to you, Galen and Kathleen.
Yeah, yeah.
I like it.
I'll tell you a key decision that I make every year, and that is to attend the annual meeting. And the annual meeting, or as Ann likes to call it, the annual meeting for your life, is where we get together with like-minded people, and you have to bring your life in writing. You have to bring your life for the past year in writing. What have you accomplished versus what you set out to accomplish? And then you have to share what your plan is for the upcoming year. And everyone will vet your plans against your goals. And if you haven't done what you said you were going to do this past year, how can you convince this group of people who are like-minded, they're rooting for you, but how can you convince them that you're actually going to do the things that you're saying that you're going to do this upcoming year? And I like to say, be mindful of those little kids on the front row, because they're the ones that ask the toughest questions. Because they don't understand the sophistication that we adults put around our excuses. They don't understand them. Either you did it or you didn't do it. Either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. I don't understand what all this perhaps and sometimes and it depends means. So it is just a great way to get grounded around, what are you really here on this planet to do? And what are you putting in place to actually do those things? And I would encourage everyone to register now. You see the QR code there in the bottom left-hand corner. January 9th and 10th in Boca Raton. Just a great opportunity to get your year off on a purposeful start. Kathleen, I don't know if have you been to the annual meeting yet?
Oh, no, I haven't. I am honestly new to this, so I didn't realize you had that.
Yeah,
Really?
absolutely. Well, looking forward to seeing you at the annual meeting this upcoming year. I've already got my tickets. I'm going to be there, so I hope you guys are there as well. Back to your point. I don't know where the time is gone, but I would love to just go around and get everyone's insight as to what are some of the key takeaways you want people to emerge from this conversation with about the importance of desire. Kathleen, I'll go ahead and start with you. How can people get a hold of you, and what are some of your key takeaways?
Yeah. Well, people can find out more about me on christempoweredimpact.com, my website. Best way to reach me is on my email, which is Kathleen@KathleenFischerCoaching.com. And really, I think a key takeaway is what Anne was just talking about, is this compounding interest of the micro decisions. And I have to confess that Victoria's question is sort of, lingering in my head, like, what have I not decided? And I want to say that the micro and micro decision that really had shifted was that I decided to be the person God created me to be, which is a speaker and a trainer, and be all about it, 100%. Don't doubt anymore that I'm going to be chewed up and spit out or whatever else. I had to cast off everything and focus on being the speaker and trainer I am. And Anne's comment about compounding interest is spot on. Every micro decision about, what am I thinking about? Am I doubting? Am I wondering if I'm going to do well speaking, whatever? No. It's absolutely not, is a non-negotiable. It's my constant decision. That thought is a non-negotiable. The right thought is the right decision every time, which is an aligned thought. So that micro compounding interest, just decision all day long, 24/7, to stay the course and to stay aligned in the right thought pattern.
I love it. What about you, Ann?
I want a couple of takeaways when Kathleen talked about the small decisions. And I go back to something you shared, Kathleen, and I wrote some notes. And one of them was about Abraham, Jacob, and Joseph. And what you did not know is the Joseph part of my life was in making a decision to leave my corporate job. And I continued to read that story over and over and over and over and over for years, as I saw the hand of God on my life, similarly like Joseph being sold by his brothers. Now, and I want to share this about a decision. He had nothing to do with that decision. That was a decision that was made by others, but it was actually a decision made by God. And oftentimes in our lives, we will look at people who are being used by God, and this is not a political conversation, but I will go there. Yes, this is what came up for me, Caitlin. And that is, or maybe I'll save it for another show. But the decision of the president to do some things. We'll talk about that next week, Galen. I think that will be a really good show because I believe that he's our Pharaoh.
Mm.
Come on.
Mm.
And
Wow.
what did God tell the man to go tell Pharaoh? So, we may go over a little bit today. I will apologize in advance for those of you. If you got to go, just click off. Just go on. But it's about the decision.
Mhm.
And so for me, Joseph, he didn't have a decision in the decision that was made for him by God. Used him to go through every single one of those challenges. But why? Because God knew he needed to be the right hand of the man to save his family. And so God chooses each and every one of us to be the right hand to save a group of people. Now you get to choose if you're going to make the decision to follow that lead, if you will. And so that's what came up for me when you mentioned Abraham, Jacob, and Joseph, because it took me back to my Joseph story of leaving West Palm Beach over a 20-year period of time to go to Miami to learn how to become a contractor to focus on billion-dollar programs to help my coaching clients to learn how in construction. Just because we are small does not mean we have to think small. That's a decision. Okay, so I want to thank you, Kathleen. We must have you back because I don't think we scratched the surface on this principle. Or you may want to come back. Oh, you have your hand raised. Go ahead, Kathleen.
Yeah, I want to ask permission to share something within what you just said, Ann.
Absolutely. This is our show. We can do whatever we want to do with it.
This is important because, as you said, Joseph did not have the decision of what happened to him.
No, he did not.
Right? And this is what can happen to us. And if you will, I'll say but Joseph had to make the decision within the decision story
Yes.
to consistently stay aligned with God. It says that God was with him in that space. And you get this idea that, yes, he has no control over any of it, but he does have some control over his own mind, his own heart, his own attitude. And he did that so well. And I believe that's a critical thing for us to remember, that when we can't control what our spouse might be doing or the world is doing, or etc., we always can control what we are thinking and believing and doing as a result of what we're thinking and believing in alignment with God.
And that's a decision. And
it's a decision. It is a
mindset. It's a mindset.
It is. And it's all day and it's every day because the circumstances can be awfully messy.
Yes.
That mess, we have to internally decide all day, every day, how are we going to play this out? So I had to share that because I am passionate about Joseph's story. I relate to his story. Thank you. Thank you for letting me share that.
I'll tell you one of the things that's really coming up for me is that I'm a trainer, I'm a facilitator. I've really gotten into this adult learning philosophy, and adult learning philosophy says that adults learn best when they know where this is going, when they have a vision for what this is about, as opposed to just going on a journey. And the way scripture seems to reveal is that God will say, go to a land that I will reveal to you. It's like, I won't show it to you first. I want you to go. And if you go, then I'll make all this stuff happen, but we have to go first. And how important is it for us to really kind of trust the process, trust this inkling? It's never a laid out plan. It's never a laid out photograph. It's always an inkling. It's always Kathleen, I love your word. It's always a nudging. And we've got to trust that this will lead us to the land that God will reveal to us, as opposed to in today's society, we want to see the plan. We want to see the itinerary. It's like in a few months, my wife and I will be going to South Africa, and so we've got a plan for everything. We know exactly what everything looks. We've looked at pictures and brochures. We have a vision as to what this is, as opposed to just getting on a plane saying, "All right, what do we want to do next?" So, Kathleen, and what's this? What's your thought about? I know we got to close. Your thought about moving before you have an incredibly clear vision of how everything is going to work out.
Okay. Well, yes, I'm going to go with the Abraham concept that when God says move, you move. And if you know his voice and you know that nudge in your spirit, you have got to move by faith and make the decision and begin acting in accord with where you believe. You cannot see it all. I do believe, though, that then he also does give us a vision that drives us. For me, it is a worldwide vision of Christ-empowered women fulfilling God's will. It is a vision, and it's inside me, but it didn't start that way. It started with a nudge that I had to obey. So that's what I'll always come back to it. It's my anchor. It's what keeps me going every day.
Fantastic. All right. So, Ann, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, while they're waiting to get a hold of me, I have to just make comments about these comments in the chat. So you want to make them, Galen? You want me to make them?
Go for it. Go for it. You can talk to them.
Okay. All right. Laverne says, so true. Some of the little decisions lead to the greatest impact. One of mine is deciding to join a mastermind group. Thank you. Wyman Wimbush says the second, he said, I don't know if you're a member, but anyway, he says the Second Sleep Society is populated with those living beneath their potential.
Ooh.
Also says, oh, wow, Wyman, wow. Wyman says, ultimately, our lives are the result of micro decisions we make every day.
Mm.
And then I did find is Proverbs 6:10, a little sleep, a little slumber, for those of you that need some spiritual encouragement, not to be a part of the Second Sleep Society
I
that
love it.
is created. Or you can join our early risers. I find that helps. So if you're interested, we have an early risers mastermind group. The only thing we do, Galen and everybody, is we just type the word up. And for me, it is a confirmation, get up, yes, now, and get to my daily date with myself. And somebody's liking it in the chat because many of us do that. So I just want to make sure I got everybody. Xavier, everybody, thank you. LaTanya did a small video rap for me. I'm going to play it next week, but I'll put it in all the social media and you can listen to it. It's been in my psyche now, LaTanya, ever since you shared that. But I want to just make sure that we got everybody. We want to thank everybody for sharing and coming on with us. You can reach me by going to annmcneil.com. I have many coaching clients that participate in the many different events that we do. One in particular is our Niche to Be Rich. And if you're interested, just type the number 59925 on your phone in the chat, 59925, and put the word "and" in the chat, and I'll send you the information regarding our Niche to Be Rich. If you're interested in niching to be richer, I put an R on that, in every area of your life, then we can connect. But Galen, Kathleen, this has been a phenomenal. How to join the early risers. Just actually, if you put it in the chat now, I'll send that to you. Now it's on GroupMe, and I will send that to you right now. Thank you for the question, Victoria. And I'll also put it in the Facebook group, in our Think and Grow Rich Facebook group, how to join. And Doretha is listening, and I think Laverne is listening. So let's help me make sure we share that with the world, because many people do the 5 a.m. club. And for many of you that know, I've been doing a early risers for my daily date with myself, which is really a little earlier than 5 a.m. To me, 5 a.m. is late for the things that I desire to do. But nevertheless, please join us. And again, that number is 59925, and I would change my name on this YouTube so that you can text that number 59925. Okay, Galen, back to you. Thank you.
All right. So another amazing conversation. We are absolutely going to need to have you back, Kathleen, because this has been an incredible conversation. My name is Galen Bingham. I am the leadership strategist. You can find me all over social media. But the best way, most fun way, the most productive way is to follow our podcast, Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership, on every podcast platform. We talk to leaders all over the world about the whiskeys they drink, the music they listen to, and what they believe it really takes to be an effective leader. Double Dog dare you to try us at least once. Guarantee you that we will help you with at least one step closer, getting closer to your goal. We've just launched season 8, and really, really excited. Please check us out on any podcast platform. Well, that's it. We got another one in the books. Want to encourage you guys to join us each and every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time when we talk to a guest about some element of Think and Grow Rich. This seems to be how things work. This seems to be the formula for life. So I would encourage everyone to be a part of this every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Any final things, Ms. Ann? Look like you want to share one more thing before we leave.
Yeah. This video, this face, Kathleen, we must have you back. And I don't know if we have a guest scheduled for next Saturday already, but if we don't, and if you are available, I would love to continue this conversation because I think the road we're going down is so desperately needed for many of us who may not have been able to bridge the gap between the Think and Grow Rich philosophy and principles and the Spirit of God. Okay.
Yeah.
And the story that is not told is that Andrew Carnegie was a staunch Christian. And when he asked Napoleon Hill to write this book, the first time he wrote the book, Christ Was All in It, it did not sell.
Yeah, that's the problem that people have.
He took the words out and he left the spirit, and it is still to this day one of the #1 bestsellers. And there's no reason why we have to ask why. There's no why. It is the spirit. And so seldom do we have an opportunity and a guest like yourself to go deep into the conversation between the two books. Yes, bridge the gap. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk about that. I'm actually flying. I'll be away. So I don't think I can do it next weekend, but another weekend I will come back to it. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So look at the Sign Up Genius and choose another one, because I think our audience, especially those who are here, if you're interested in having her come back, say yes, Kathleen. Say yes, Kathleen, and the chat on YouTube, so we can give her some love to know that she's in the right place and the space that God is giving her a platform to share more about him and who he is and what he can do in helping us to make the decisions, but also the other principles, because he's through all of these principles, not just the decision principles, but that's another show. So Galen, I'm ready now. So if you want to go ahead and take us home. Thank you, Kathleen.
My pleasure. It's an honor.